You're surrounded by people you love. You're supposed to be having a good time, but you feel completely frantic and alone. Today, I'm going to be talking about the mental health cost, the sensory cost of living in a loud world. Everyone seems relaxed. You look around and people are smiling. Somebody's talking to you, but you can't hear them over the sound of their silverware clanging against their ceramics. Somebody else is talking, and that's taking you away from the conversation you're supposed to be having. The tension is starting to build inside of you. And what's worse is you don't know why you're feeling this way. And you feel broken for not having fun in an environment that's supposed to be fun. Memories of the thousands of other times you've felt this way flood your system, and you feel like there's something wrong with you. Just last weekend, I found myself in this situation. Imposter syndrome had been hitting me really hard after my most recent conversation with the people who had assessed me and told me I wasn't autistic. I picked up my mask like an old habit, and I started overcompensating because of the feeling that I just simply wasn't enough. The clinician that I had spoken to a week before had told me that all of the things that I associated as autistic traits could be explained away by PTSD and anxiety. This had happened several times before with psychiatrists and other clinicians telling me that my experience wasn't what my experience was. What I told them didn't match what they thought they saw in me. I left with the familiar feeling of wondering if I could trust my own mind. Every time a negative feeling came up inside of me, I pushed it down because if I could be wrong about something as intense and big as being autistic, then I must be wrong about the volume being too loud in the car or the sun being too bright in the window behind my friend who's talking. I must be making a problem out of nothing and I must push through it. Because if this is not autism, other people must be feeling this way. So I pushed for 2 weeks before I broke down this time. I started saying yes when I wanted to say no. I talked myself out of trusting my body, and I started to disconnect from my sensory experiences. I became more insecure and more needy for external validation because I just simply wasn't getting the internal trust and validation from myself. And I was filled with nervous energy, just waking up, shooting up like a bullet, full of anxiety. We had friends over for breakfast when I started to cry. My partner checked in with me and asked me if I needed some alone time. I took it and I started to sob into my pillow. Then suddenly I came back to myself. I thought of the sensory overload that was happening in the kitchen, the sounds, the social demands and dynamics. And I let myself for a moment believe that I was autistic again. My breathing started to slow down. And I looked up autistic sensory overload or something like that, maybe autism in females. And I started to read a little bit more about autism, like I'd done many, many times before. And my body started to relax. I made sense again. I started to reconnect to my body again. I started to feel my fingers and my toes and my heart and my breath. I went back out with red eyes into the kitchen, and I ended up laughing with friends over pancakes. Holding ourselves to neurotypical standards often means disconnecting ourselves from our own lived experiences and our bodies. The cost this time was heightened anxiety, a little bit less sleep, and some tears. But when it's done over the course of a lifetime, the consequences can be much, much bigger. It is so, so important to be kind to yourself, to have compassion for yourself, and to find safe spaces to be yourself. So take your time, learn about autism, let yourself relate, see what resonates with you, let yourself be comforted, let yourself make sense. You matter. How you feel matters. And you're in very good company if you do happen to relate to autism. I'm sending you love. Let's do this one day at a time.